All right, what's going on, everybody? I'm Nick Hamilton here for WestCoastStyles.com with the one and only. We got hip hop royalty in the building, the one and only EDI Don, formerly known as EDI, from the famous group the Outlawz from
Still
Tupac.
known as EDI.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Didn't want to shortchange you on that.
How we rappers do, man. We
Yeah.
change our names up. We got aliases. You know what I mean?
Got you, no doubt. First of all, man, thank you for coming on and taking time out of your schedule, man. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine.
So I want to talk a little bit about your journey, man. I know you've been you're part of history. You're part of hip hop history for sure. But I want to talk about, just your journey, where you started and how did you get into the rap game, and how did you connect with Tupac ultimately, to start doing music and telling your stories with your verses that you've written.
Yeah, man, I was born in New York City. You know what I mean? I grew up in Brooklyn for a little while. As you know, like everybody knows, Pac was born in New York as well. He was in Harlem. I was in Brooklyn. Our families were friends, before we were born. And we just was always in each other's life. But he had his aspirations in entertainment, and I started to develop minds, and eventually we linked up and got on this journey together.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So at what point did you realize, okay, I want to be serious about this, this rap thing. I want to be serious to make this a career, in rap?
It happened pretty early, man. It happened pretty early for me. I knew pretty, at a young age that this is what I wanted to do. Hip hop was all around me, growing up in New York City, and it was just something that spoke to me.
When you listen to, I know the first time I heard you and a couple of other members of the Outlawz was doing Me Against the World as a group as Dramacidal.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I always used to hear stories about, you used to hear about Tupac being up in the Bay Area. You guys were always with him, but you guys were much younger, so we hadn't heard about you all yet. So what were times like that rolling with Pac, and then when he went to Marin City and in the Bay Area?
It was just really a learning experience, man. We just was learning a lot, man. And Pac's method of teaching was to just literally throw us in the fire and push us off the cliff and build a parachute on the way down.
When you started formulating Dramacidal, it seemed like you were I don't want to say the leader, because I feel like all you guys were leaders, but you seemed like you led the way when it came to that. Like it was Pac, and then it was like you, and it was the other artists that were involved in it. How did that structure go? How did you guys structure? Because I know Pac was very strategic when he would put groups together, when he would make albums, when he would make songs. How did that formulate?
To be honest with you, I don't recall it being any particular, structure or formula. Anything that you perceived and the fans perceived was just because that's what y'all saw. You know what I mean? Obviously, I was a little older than some of the other group members, but there were cats that were around, from the Thug Life members and so have you, that were older than me as well. So, it wasn't any particular set format or structure or anything like that. It just came across that way, I guess.
I mean, like I said, I thought you guys were a phenomenal group. I mean, listening to Me Against the World, how did it feel to be part of such a phenomenal project, man, that was just taking off? I mean, unfortunately, Pac was falsely, accused of something that we all know he didn't do, but he had to go. He was spent some time in jail, but as he was in jail, like Me Against the World was blowing up, like it was the #1 record for like 4 weeks in a row. So what did that feel like, for you guys to be a part of that project, even though, your man and your friend and mentor was currently locked away?
Yeah, it was bittersweet, man, because like you said, he was locked away, fighting for his life at the time in a lot of different ways. And so I don't even really remember us celebrating at all. It was just really, like I said, bittersweet.
Now, when you first heard that Tupac was signing with Death Row and made a pact with Suge Knight, what was your initial thoughts when you heard about that at that time?
At the time, we were just happy that, he would be coming home. Everything else was secondary. Mm-hmm. Everything else was just, like, okay, whatever, you know what I mean? But our main thing was okay, now he's home. He gets to come home. He gets to get out of that cage, and you know what I mean, and have some freedom.
What was the difference that you saw in Tupac at that time, from obviously before he went in, and then the time that he arrived, being free on bail and arrived at death row? What was the difference that you saw in Tupac in those times?
Man, he was just, you know, hungry, anxious to get back to work. You know what I mean? And it, you know, everybody heard the stories as far as his work ethic and you know, how he loved to be in the studio, and you know, that was the same way before death row, and it just intensified.
I know Pac was an avid reader. He read a lot of books. You know, beforehand, he read a lot of books while he was locked down. Did he share any of those books with you guys, or share any of those principles or lessons that he had learned from reading those pieces of literature?
Yeah, he did. He did. He shared a lot of stuff, and you know, I was a reader as well, and a lot of those books, you know, I would eventually read either at that time or eventually ended up reading later on. Absolutely.
What was your favorite book?
Um, you know what? I don't even really have a favorite, man. They were all, you know, awesome and added to my life and to my psyche in different ways.
So it was you, rest in peace, Gaddafi, rest in peace, Fatal. Um, Obviously, trying to remember all the Outlaws. Forgive me, but it was you guys were so huge, man, and it was you guys. I know it was Storm had joined you guys later on in LA, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have formulated the group. Obviously, Young Noble. Um, uh, Napoleon Castro, everybody. So how did you guys, how were you guys able to balance and feed off each other? Because it seemed like when I would listen to songs, you guys kind of fed off each other. You guys, you know, kind of really had that brotherhood. How was that time in you guys' life when you guys got to Death Row, where Pac was about to drop? Now we understand as a classic, with All Eyes on Me.
Man, we was just all hungry, man, and anxious to prove ourselves, man. You know, we definitely wanted to, you know, earn our position, like as far as what the public perceived. You know what I mean? We didn't just want it to be, you know, some flunkies that Pac had hanging around and, you know, charity cases and all of that. You know what I mean? I know for me, it was very important for me to make sure that I earned my spot. You know, I didn't take it for granted then. I still don't take it for granted to this day. Mm-hmm. So it was just really at that time just proving ourselves. You know, coming to Death Row was like coming to the, you know, the X-Men Academy. So many great artists up in there. You know, you had so many, you know, artists that was at the top of their game and other hungry artists that was anxious to get their spot. So you just throw us right in that mix and you know, we wanted to do the same thing. Absolutely.
Now you got to tell me this, because you got to walk me through it. You got Dr. Dre at the time. You have Roger Troutman, and then you have Tupac all on one song. What was the initial reaction when you finally heard the song? Before obviously the fans heard it, but what was your reaction when you first heard that?
Man, you know, I was like a kid in the candy store, man. I just wanted to, you know, not get kicked out the studio, man. You know, Dr. Dre was in there, Roger Troutman was in there. These were all people that, you know, I looked up to musically. You know, I understood the genius that was Dr. Dre at that time. You know, of course, he had already, you know, etched his name in stone as one of the greatest, if not the greatest hip hop producer of all times at that time. And just to be able to be in a room when he was mixing that record was just like, it's something that I'll never forget. You know, I never heard a record that crispy, that loud, that well produced before, especially with Tupac on it. You know what I mean? And so I was really, really, really happy for him that he had this opportunity to, you know, really put his you know, his talent on full display. You know what I mean? We all felt up until that point that, you know, even though he was successful, that, you know, a lot of people were still sleeping on Pac. They really saw him either as an actor or somebody that was just always in some type of trouble. But for all of us, we was like, this is the dopest guy in rap right now. This is the best rapper in hip hop, and we wanted him to have a chance to put that talent on display for the world.
Yeah, I definitely think, and I've always said this too, I think Tupac really put Death Row on a whole different level. I mean, they were already there, but it was like it's like the Golden State Warriors, and then you add Kevin Durant to the mix. You know,
100%.
Kevin Durant was already dope, but now you got Pac, and then now he's taking it to an extra level.
No doubt. I feel the same way. That's a great analogy.
Thank you. So, I mean, when you look at, you guys were recording, and Pac was about being fast in the studio, kick him in, kick him out. So who became the fastest writer out the clique at that time? And how were you guys able to adjust it to make sure you guys got on songs and make sure that, you know, you wrote the verses tight, but you still had to be quick with it?
Yeah, man. You know, I think if you just if you feel like it, and to the public, if y'all feel like it, y'all can go back and just look at the whole body of work and see who ended up on a lot of those records. You know what I mean? And for the most part, you know, you'll see it was either me or Fatal who sang most of the time. You know, we all did our best to keep up with Pac. You know, and some of us, you know, were quicker than others, man. And you know, the work speaks for itself.
Oh yeah, I definitely, I have my top three. So, I mean, I know what you're saying. I mean, I think you guys, I think everybody contributed though in some way, shape or form, whether it was
Sure.
on the All Eyes on Me record, or the Makaveli record that later on came out. But I think when you look at the dynamic that Pac and the foundation that Pac was laying, how are you guys able to still be focused? Because there was so much going on at that time. You guys were young. It was a lot of success going on. It was money was flowing through. It was death row. It was the West Coast. How are you guys able to still stay balanced or still stay focused on what you had to do?
I don't know, man. You know, that's a great question. I think the best way I can answer that is to say that we were a close-knit unit. You know what I mean? We were tight, man. You know what I mean? We spent a lot of time just us. You know what I mean? And that's why I guess it shows in the work and in the music and what eventually, you know, came out over time.
Man, when I still go back and listen to All Eyes on Me, and I swear that first song, doo, 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 and you just waiting for Pac's voice to hit. When you guys heard certain songs, were you still amazed at the way Pac would attack songs and just pour his everything into it? But it was always a different style or a different way that he would do each song. Were you guys still surprised at that?
I would say yes and no. You know what I mean? Yes, because you're like, you know, I mean, where is he pulling from? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How can he be so prolific? But, you know, for all of us, it's so much that you guys never got a chance to hear. You know what I mean? There's so much other creativity and ideas and, you know, things that came out of this man that just, you know, unfortunately never made it to the light of day. So then it wasn't really surprising because we got a chance to witness that firsthand.
When you're dealing with other producers, like you got Johnny J, God rest his soul, who really contributed a lot, you know, a lot of music with Pac. You had Daz, you had DJ Quick, you had Devontae, DJ Pooh, which, you know, a record that you guys all were on, including, you know, his Pac's brother Mopreem, and you guys really, I feel like you guys really solidified who the Outlawz were when we heard all you guys' voices on there. You know, songs like Thug Passion and things like that. How are you guys able to approach different songs with different producers? Because obviously producers work a different way. So how are you all still be able to, you know, put pen to pad and still be able to come out tight, even though different producers work, you know, different ways?
I mean, really for us, you know, I'm gonna speak for myself. Actually, for me, it didn't matter what producer was coming in with the track. You know, if I liked the track, I just wanted to be the best one on the track. You know, I just wanted to make sure my verse was tight. I wanted to make sure I made the song and I didn't get cut, you know, because there were no guarantees. And so that was my focus, man. You know what I mean? I was actually waiting for the day Dre came in with a beat and Pac was like, okay, y'all can rap on that. You know, unfortunately, it never happened.
Right.
But you know, that was my goal, not to discredit none of the other producers that we work with because they were all great, you know, in their own right. And I got a chance to learn a lot from Johnny J, actually, personally. Johnny J taught me a lot about music and production as well, because those were things that I was interested in, you know, personally. I wasn't just interested in just writing. I would be up there at the board with Johnny J, asking him questions. Why does this do that? What does that do? You know, why did you turn that button that way? And so, you know, again, it didn't matter what producer it was. It was just about making sure, you know, I did the best that I could for that particular song.
With all the success that was going on at the time, and unfortunately we lost Pac in a way that we will never ever, you know, a lot of us even as fans will never get over and understand is just his significance, not just with music, but just as an individual, his voice, his passion, his power. At any point, did you consider like not doing music anymore?
Oh yeah, many times. You know what I mean? Especially after, you know, everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was definitely never, you know, a foregone conclusion that, you know, this is what we was going to continue to do. You know, it took a lot of, you know, support from friends and family, you know, that believed in what we were doing prior to his passing. And it was also, you know, a lot of belief in ourselves and saying, you know, what would he do if the shoe was on the other foot? You know what I mean? And so, but to answer your question, hell yeah, it was a lot of times, but you know, it was like, man, look, this shit might not be what it's about right now. And you know, even moving forward with the game, the way the game changes, and you know, the new nuances that come and go. You know, you have to really have a passion and a love for this shit to keep doing it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the fact that you guys were able to hold on, because when you see a lot of, you know, groups, when one of one of the main members like is either not doing anymore or he unfortunately passes away, you see the ripple effect of groups breaking up. So what actually happened with the Outlawz? Because it seemed like when Pac passed, it seemed like you guys weren't as tight or as tightly connected. At least that's the way it appeared. I don't want to cast any aspersions. Obviously, you know way more than I do what happened inside the group. But what happened? How come you guys weren't able to kind of keep that tight knit when Pac was here?
Man, you know, I just think, you know, as time goes on, people grow up, they have different aspirations, you know, shit changes, you know what I mean? It's group members that have retired, it's group members that, you know, left the group and came back, you know what I mean? Hussein Fatal had his own journey after passing. Eventually, he ended up back in the group up until the very end. You know, Napoleon went on to accept Islam as a religion and dedicate his life to that. You know, Castro just completely just wiped his hands of it eventually. And so I just think people grow up. Groups in music business, period, are one of the hardest things to keep together. You know what I mean? Show me a group that is still together after 20 years, and I'll show you a miracle. You know, it's definitely a miracle to keep that going. So, but as far as our brotherhood outside of music and outside of business, that always, you know, remained intact for the most part. You know what I mean? And I don't see that ever changing.
Do you guys still ever talk to Storm or anybody else that was at that time a member of the Outlawz?
I personally don't speak to Storm anymore. I think, you know, some other group members maybe they do, but our relationship wasn't as it wasn't as close with her as it was with all of us because we only knew her for a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the underground tapes, and I'm like, man, I wish some of those records would have come out because I mean, it's a lot, like you said earlier, it's a lot of material where I feel like you guys showed an immense amount of talent.
Yeah, and we were actually just getting started, man. We, you know, all of those records that a lot of people hear are like, you know, class. You know what I mean? We were literally going to school, and you know, some of those records never were even planning to make the light of day. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we were just learning.
Now, you guys, I know you guys were never signed to Death Row initially, right?
We didn't sign to Death Row with Tupac. We eventually signed to Death Row later.
Okay, with the Tupac and the Outlawz record that dropped in '99.
No, not officially.
Okay. How are you guys able to, I know you talked about earlier about getting the recordings, and I know masters are a big thing in the music industry as far as retaining those masters to be able to put those songs out. How are you guys able to put out the Tupac and the Outlawz record post Pac being here? What was that process like for all of you guys? And for you
We
especially.
were working on the album, we were working on the album already when Pac was alive. We had already had plans on doing an Outlaw album. It wasn't going to be Tupac and the Outlaws. It was just going to be Outlawz.
Okay.
So we had some songs already recorded for that project. You know what I mean? Some songs that eventually did come out, like Letter to the President, Baby Don't Cry. All of those songs were songs that we had planned for our project anyway. You know what I mean? And thankfully, Faney, along with Interscope Records and Death Row, they all were able to agree to put that album out because that wasn't a guarantee either. It could have just been all Tupac projects, and but they all knew that Pac wanted to do this album, and they were gracious enough to allow us to do that. You know what I mean?
How did that help you all moving forward as far as having that record being put out and people actually putting their focus on you all as a group and not just, just Tupac's group, but you guys were actually a group called the Outlawz?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people ever quite got that. People wanted to always separate Pac and because, obviously the name Tupac and, worldwide icon is a selling point for record companies. They don't really care about what was actually discussed prior to or whatever. But it helped because it was somewhat successful. I felt like that album could have been a lot more successful as far as number wise if it got the actual push that it deserved. But we were still thankful and grateful for it, man. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was an incredible record. I remember it actually when it dropped right before Christmas. And man, I was like, we were all fiending for Pac music and anything related. We all, fans were going out. We were talking about it, buying it. But I want to talk about one song that you had mentioned called Letter to the President. And when you wrote your verse, did you have any idea that it would be something so magnificent in the fact of you could talk about Letter to the President even 20 years later and it's still relevant?
Yeah, man, that's just a testament to the genius that's Tupac, man. That song was his concept. As far as the way you guys eventually heard it, me and QD3, I kind of got to the studio earlier one day and QD3 was like, look, I want to do an intro to the song. I want you to say something here. I want you to say something there. So QD3 actually produced that record and made it to where you guys hear it today, because prior to that, it was just a song with some verses on it and a hook. You know what I mean? And it was very raw. It was a very raw song. But again, that's a Tupac concept. That's a QD3 production, and I'm just thankful I was able to play my position on it. And what I wrote as far as my verse was just what I was seeing at the time, and what unfortunately that hasn't changed in 20 some odd years as far as how presidents get down in this country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I tell you, man, I go and pop that record in and it's like, it's 2020. It's like you guys just wrote that. It's amazing to really understand the vibe that goes on.
Thank you.
When you look at what transpired, obviously between Pac and Big, and unfortunately they're no longer here, but were there any plans for Pac and Big to call some type of peace or, try to have a conversation with one another before their passing? Or was that something you all later on had to do? I noticed you guys, connected with C's and you guys kind of, hashed everything out.
Yeah, we got a 10-part series that we're working on for Hulu, and we're gonna cover a lot of that stuff in that and give people details. The stories are amazing. How the journey is amazing, and I really want people to have a chance to really get details, because what I can give you right now is just an interview, and I can't really go into detail right now. But stay on the lookout for that, man. That'll eventually see the light of day, and when it does, it's gonna have people sitting back in their chairs going, "Wow, it's deeper than I thought."
So just talking about the obviously you guys gonna have a docuseries coming out. When you see there was another series, obviously Unsolved on USA that came out, another 10-part series that kind of broke down the behind the scenes, what happened between Pac and Big and what led up to their untimely demises. When you see stuff like that, do you critique it? Do you even watch it? If so, what are you looking for when you do, if you do watch any of these docuseries about your late friend?
I watched maybe an episode or two. You know what I mean? And I just it's hard for me to you know what I mean, watch something on schedule a lot with my schedule and you know the lifestyle.
Right.
I don't really watch a whole lot of TV. So but I don't really critique it. I don't really I understand it's the nature of the beast. You know, two icons, they're gonna be talked about forever. You know what I mean? I know some of the people that are involved in these productions, and you know what I mean. I'm happy that they're working and getting paid to do something that they love. You know what I mean? And I just understand it's the nature of the beast, man. You know what I mean? This is not, you know, just Joe Blow we talking about. We talking about worldwide icons that shaped a whole generation and a culture. And so it's gonna happen. People are gonna talk about them for forever.
When you guys did All Eyes on Me, I know that took a while to even come to fruition. You guys finally got the ball rolling with that. Talk a little bit about what happened behind the scenes. Like, how did that come about? How are you guys being able to be involved in the movie? Why were you involved in the movie? And what did you think about once it was finished and brought to light?
Well, you know, first shout out to LT Hutton and Benny Boom for allowing us the opportunity to be involved in the production and actually reaching out to us and asking our opinion, you know, on certain things here and there. And so for me personally, I was just tired of people telling our story for us. And so I said I had made a promise to myself that the next time, you know, something like this was happening where I specifically was involved in the story, I was gonna take more of what's the word I'm looking for? I was just gonna be more involved, you know, and not let the narrative, because a lot of times a story is told and it's inaccurate. You know, people take creative liberty with a lot of shit, and you know, I was just tired of that. You know what I mean? And I also felt like it was a slight trend where, you know, the Outlawz were being kind of edited out of the story. You know what I mean? And you know, for my niggas, Hussein Fatal, Gaddafi, you know, and everybody else, you know, we put in a lot of work and a lot of time to get whatever we got, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? And I didn't I wasn't gonna. I know how history, you know, if you let certain people control the narrative, I know how it could turn out. You know what I mean? And for our fans as well, you know, Outlaw fans specifically, I just wasn't gonna, you know, continue to allow that to happen.
Well, I tell you what, man. Some people liked it, some people didn't. How did you deal with the criticism? How did you deal with, you know, obviously people, you know, praising you guys for it, but then dealing with the criticism on top of that, where people was like nitpicking, like little, well, this didn't happen, or that was there and that shouldn't have been there. Like, how do you all deal with that, or do you deal with it?
Man, it comes with the territory, man. And one thing, you know, I said to, you know, several people involved in the production, this is going to be the most picked apart movie of all time. This was going to be the most critiqued movie of all time. And I still feel that way to this day. You know what I mean? Because people are so passionate about Tupac. His fans are so passionate about him. His haters, his detractors, the people that didn't like him, they're passionate about that. You know what I mean? And so I just understood that it was, you know, depending on how you look at it, it could have been a lose-lose situation or win-win. You know, it was no, you can't please everybody. And so I understood that going into it. So the critiques and that type of thing. It really didn't bother me. It was when people started to, level their opinions and their attacks personally. You know what I mean? Whatever you felt about the movie is one thing, but don't make it personal.
Got you. Demetrius Shipp Jr. did a phenomenal job. I will say that. When you guys were on set and he was in his character as Tupac, how did that feel to see your homeboy being portrayed, or somebody portraying your homeboy on screen? Like, what was going through your mind? What were some of the emotions? What were your thoughts? Because he looked like Pac. Like, he looked like him. He was walking like him. I mean, you guys know Pac better than anybody. How was that feeling for you guys?
It was, for one, I would say I felt like it was something that was Pac always deserved. I felt like, he earned that, to be portrayed, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To have a movie done about him, you know what I mean? Like, we can all agree on that. So I thought the movie was well deserved. As far as Demetrius and him on set, he took it very seriously. He wanted to do very well, and you can tell, his heart was in it. So it made it very easy to work with him. It made it a very easy process. If it was just some actor and this was just another job for him, I probably wouldn't have been, that enthused about it. And it needed somebody who believed in it, who understood it. Meech is from the West Coast. Even though he's younger, he understood the power, and the energy that was a Tupac Shakur, and he did his best to bring that to light. Now, obviously, nobody can be a Tupac, you know what I mean? That's lightning in a bottle that comes once in a lifetime. But I feel like Meech did the very best that he could, and like you said, he did a dynamite job.
Absolutely. So how did it feel for you guys to portray yourselves in that movie?
Man, for me, it was just what the job called for. I really felt like, again, why let, the opportunity just pass by? You know what I mean? Why not, put our fingerprints on it, both behind the camera and in front of the camera? You know what I mean? And, some people will criticize us for being ambitious. Some people say, people had a lot of opinions, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change that decision for the world. You know what I mean? It was a good time. The cast, the crew, everybody involved really did their best and put their best foot forward to get a movie to the screen for all the Pac fans out there. And for the most part, the energy that I get from that movie is positive.
Now, I want you of all people can clear this up, I'm sure. Before the Benny Booms, before the LT Huttons, there was talk about John Singleton actually directing the film and being a part of the film. What happened with that, and how come John Singleton was no longer a part of the film? Do you know anything about that, or what transpired with that?
Man, rest in peace to John Singleton, man. That's all I'm gonna say on that. Rest in peace to John Singleton. Why he is not involved in the movie, there's been a lot of discussion about that. You can go back and Google the interviews. LT spoke about it. Plenty of people spoke about it. But I'm going to just say, rest in peace to John Singleton. That man is a black, not only a black cinema icon, but an icon in movies, period. And I want to, I don't want no negative energy on that, at least from me.
Fair enough. When you look at yourself, not just as an artist, but you were able to evolve and you were able to continue to keep yourself out there, obviously keep the Outlaw name, but keep your name out there as well, because you transformed not just from an artist, but you also guys were owning, had a record label, you guys were putting out music, but then you also became a radio host, and you were hosting a show called The Dinner Club on Dash Radio. So how did that come about, and what inspired you to want to become on this side of the mic instead of being the person that was always on the opposite side being interviewed?
Man, I grew up in New York City in the 80s and the 90s, and New York City was, radio was huge in New York City, you know what I mean? And I always listened to the radio. I always made my own little radio tapes, my favorite songs on it, and I figured out a way to mic myself, and I would host my own mixtapes, and I would do all of this shit as a kid, man. So this is just really, just dreams that I was able, when I got the opportunity to jump on it again. Shout out to Steve Lobel, because he was one of the first people that I guess saw that talent that could have been there. And, he linked me up with DJ Ski, and it was like, what you want to do? You know what I mean? And they let me do what I want to do, man. You know what I mean? For a long time. And I got a chance to interview a lot of great, future artists and great artists at the time, and people from all walks of life. So that's just another one on the bucket list, another dream come true. I also got a chance to be a concert promoter. I started a company with my partner called Cabana Life Concerts. We were one of the first people to book Nipsey Hussle as a headliner. We did that back in 2018 and followed that up in 2019 with Ice Cube and Roddy Ricch, and both of those concerts were successful. And so I just love hip hop music, man. I love hip hop music. I love West Coast hip hop culture. And when I moved back to LA in 2013, I had a plan to, make sure I did whatever I wanted to do as far as this entertainment shit is concerned. And I'm not done.
Oh, far from it. I will agree. Far from it. I'm looking forward to bigger things from you, because I know you guys a lot of things in store, man. So I can definitely see it. One thing I wanted to ask you too, Tupac, and I'm paraphrasing it, but Pac once said that I may not be the change, but I may spark the brain of the person that will change. A lot of people believe that was Nipsey Hussle. What did you see in Nipsey, and do you believe that that's what Pac was kind of prophesying about when he made those statements?
Yeah, man, I think, I think Pac was, in tuned enough to know that, I may not, it's kind of like the Martin Luther King speech where he says, I may not make it there with you. You know what I mean? But we will get to the mountaintop. That was Pac's version of that. I may not get there with you, but there will be other artists, there will be other MCs, there will be other leaders that will pick up where I left off, you know what I mean? Because we all in a marathon, you know what I mean? Whether we know it or not, you know what I mean? You got the baton right now to do what you do, and you're gonna pass it on to somebody else, and you're gonna inspire somebody else to come after you, and then they're gonna take it a little bit further. And that's all we as human beings and as entertainers and as artists and as black men and women, that's all we can, that's all we can do. Nobody's ever gonna just come and wave a magic wand and make it all better for us in one day. But if we continue to put in the work individually and collectively, you know what I mean, history will be able to look back and they'll be like, wow, look what those, look what those kids did, man. You know what I mean? Look what those Black and Latinos and, you know what I mean, hip hop lovers did. And so that's what Pac was just basically saying. And hell yeah, Nipsey was one of those people that he inspired. Nipsey said it himself, and again, with actually being today Nipsey's birthday, I had my Crenshaw shirt on yesterday. You know what I mean? It's just one of those bittersweet things. I'm glad Nipsey was able to inspire so many people, but him, like Pac, has so much more to do. And I want us to get past that point where, our idols, our leaders, the people that we love, stop getting cut short before they can really do what they were meant to do. Or maybe they did what they were meant to do, and it's just the way that, the way it goes. I don't know.
What did you see in Nipsey? Obviously, you said you guys did concert promotion and headlining his show in a couple of years back. What did you see in Nipsey, and what was the vibe like, just being around him and seeing how he moves and how he maneuvers his way through things?
Man, it was just dope to see the growth, you know what I mean? Because we actually got a chance to do a concert with Nipsey when he was on a come up back in 2009 in Sweden, actually.
Okay.
You know what I mean? With him, us, Bone, Dub C, and a few other people. And so that was the first time I got to meet him, chop it up with him personally. You know what I mean? And I always, one thing that I always liked about Nipsey was his intensity. You know what I mean? He was an intense dude, even though he was laid back. There was a quiet intensity about him, and about, you know, he was about, you know, making sure he put his name in the brick wall called hip hop. You know what I mean? And I seen it then, and then when I eventually got a chance to book him and do business with him, you know, you saw the work that he put in over those years. You know, I said it before in several interviews. He ran his shit like a true professional, and I respected that. He showed up early to sound check. You know what I mean? And did sound check, did a full sound check, didn't just go up there and half-ass it. He didn't send his hype man, he didn't send his DJ, which a lot of artists do. You know, some artists don't even do sound check. Nipsey came and did sound check. His team all moved on his command. You know, later that night, before he got on stage, I went back to holler at him, and he had the quietest dressing room. Now, mind you, we had over 20-some artists on the bill. Everybody from the Dog Pound to the Loonies, to Mac 10, to us. You know what I mean? Most people were in their dressing room, you know, having a good time, doing what rappers and rock stars do. Nipsey had the quietest dressing room above everybody. You know what I mean? That man was absolutely focused, and he, you know, he had intentions on doing what, you know, he eventually did. And that's what that was to be successful and put on for the West Coast, and he did, man.
Oh, no doubt, man. That he was definitely one of a kind for sure. When you look at what's going on in today's society, obviously, unfortunately, we continue to mourn the murders of people like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Manuel Ellis, and, you know, countless others that continue to be the victims of police brutality and police murders. What are your thoughts on what's going on? Do you really feel like, because I know talking to some other people, they really, and even older as well as young people, really feel like this is a moment and a time for change. Do you see any type of real change starting to happen or will happen at some point with all the protests and everybody being, you know, engaged with social injustice and racism and oppression?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Because, you know, one thing is for sure, two things for certain is change, man. It's always going to be change, you know, on both sides of the fence. And I definitely see, you know, change happening. You know, America has to realize by now that we're not going anywhere. You know, we're part of the fabric. And on top of that, we're not going to accept being killed unjustly. You know, we're not going to continue to accept that at all, whether it be through peaceful measures or through violent measures. Change will happen. And I think it's up to America how she wants it. You know what I mean? How do you want it? You want it peaceful, or you want, you know, you want this motherfucker torn up? It's up to y'all.
Yeah, I think we witnessed that. And I think we've seen the effects of peace, and we've seen the effects of things being torn up. So yeah, I think they got a sample of what both sides could possibly be.
Yeah, and that's only that's only a small sample right there, man. It can and will get worse unless change happens. And that's, you know, not surface change. It has to be systematic change.
How do you believe we should go about systemic change? Because there's a lot of different ideas, there's a lot of different philosophies. What do you feel like may be one of the best ways to try to accomplish that?
Well, I've always been a proponent for economic independence and economic development within our communities, because I really truly feel like personally that America respects two things, and that's violence and the dollar. You know, and you know, we don't want the violence part. None of us wants that, because that just, you know, includes a lot of death and destruction, and you know, really nobody wins there. So, you know, we as a community, you know, so many hip hop creates so many young millionaires. I love how we move as a community as far as developing new brands, and you know, we're learning. We're getting into real estate. We're getting into, you know, investing our money and making it stretch and last longer. And you know, through that, so many of us as a whole get jobs and get a chance, you know, to create other millionaires and other thousandaires and people. You know, I just love the fact that it's just so much information available, and it's really not a lot of excuses anymore. You know, I'm not one of those people that want to blame the white man or the government. You know, those days are over. It's too much information for all of us out here not to be successful. And I just feel like money is the dollar bill is where it counts. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, you know, we got to be materialistic either. I'm just saying using that money as a power. Our community, we spend so much money on so much shit that, you know, we're a low-key juggernaut in this country. You take us out of the equation and this country crumbles. You know what I mean? So with that power, we got to start doing the right thing. With that power of a dollar, we got to start doing the right thing. And that, you know, like I said, I love the fact that we're learning. You know what I mean? We're not, you know, like I said, we don't have any more excuses. We're not privy to the information. The information is there for everybody.
True indeed. I mean, one thing I will say, Dr. Claude Anderson always talked about economic empowerment, powernomics, as it were. To me, one of the most fascinating books
And I'm gonna read it. I haven't read it yet, but I heard a lot about that book. You know what I mean? And I heard that, you know, I'm already in the kind of on the same page with that. So I got to read that book.
Yeah, you got to read that one. And if you haven't already, Black Labor, White Wealth.
Okay.
That's another one by Dr. Anderson. Phenomenal books. Phenomenal. Let me ask you this. Yeah, for sure.
Writing it down.
Yeah. Black Labor, White Wealth, and Powernomics.
Sure.
What is the first thing you do when you wake up, and what is the last thing you do before you go to bed?
The first thing I do and the last thing I do is the same. You know what I mean? I give thanks for the day. You know what I mean? I'm always in a state of gratitude. You know what I mean? No matter what's going on in my life, I've learned that having gratitude and being thankful always leads me, you know what I mean, to be in a great space. You know what I mean? And I just think that's important. Me personally, you know what I mean? It might not be what everybody else does, but I always give thanks. I give thanks before my feet touch the floor. Thankful and grateful for another day. And before I close my eyes, I'm thankful and grateful for the day that I just had.
Last thing before I let you get on out of here, I'm going to play a little word association. So I'm going to throw out a name. Whatever's the first thought that comes, by all means, say whatever you want to say.
Okay.
Colin Kaepernick.
Fighter. Sacrifice.
LeBron James.
The greatest basketball player playing right now.
Kobe Bryant.
The greatest of all time.
Okay. Dr. Dre.
The greatest of all time. He's a GOAT.
I had two more names for you. Jay-Z.
Another GOAT. Another GOAT. Absolutely.
And finally, the one and only Tupac Shakur.
Thank you, man. He's another person. He's another energy that I just give thanks to, man. I just can't thank him enough, man. You know what I mean? And even though he was my friend, you know what I mean, my family, I'm just thankful. You know what I mean? Because he helped to make, you know, a little kid's dream come true, man. I was 8 years old when I fell in love with hip hop. And I didn't know how I was going to get in the game. I didn't know when. And, you know, I was lucky enough to know somebody that became this fucking megastar. And he was just like, yo, man, get in there and do your thing. You know what I mean? And of course, in my opinion, the GOAT.
Absolutely. Wouldn't have anything less. You follow any sports these days? With the NBA going on and everything?
Oh, basketball, man. Hoops, man. Lakers, man.
So are you nervous about the Lakers now with Portland coming in and you know it's a little tough?
I wouldn't say nervous, but you know I'm definitely on alert, man. High alert, man. Dame Dollar out here looking like, you know, he got that Mamba mentality, man, and you know that moves mountains. But at the same time, I just feel like, you know, the Lakers got a great team. I feel like LeBron is definitely a generational talent. He's won he's right up there with Jordan, Kobe, and Magic and all the other greats. And I just feel like, you know, you can't never underestimate the heart of a champion. You know what I mean? Like Rudy Tomjanovich said, and LeBron is a champion. And so you always got to ride with a champion until it ain't a champ no more.
Well, I tell you what, you got some competition across the hall with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Yeah, because Kawhi is a champion too, man. We definitely, you must be a Clipper fan.
No, listen.
Man.
Listen,
I pretty surely end this conversation, man, because I don't fuck with Clipper fans, man.
Nah, man, I cover both teams. So, I mean, just watching both the entire season, man, it just, I mean, I want a Western Conference Finals. I want the Clippers and the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. That's what I want. That's all I want to see.
Yeah, more than likely, that's what we'll get. And, you know, I love the NBA. I feel like, you know, the NBA is the number one sports conference, company, whatever you call it, in sports right now. They did a great job with the bubble, how they, you know, shout out to Adam Silver, man. He did a great job. Whoever came up with that shit, it's working out great. I feel like with everything going on in the world and quarantine still being a thing, you know, sports is something that we need for the morale of this country, you know what I mean? And I know, of course, there's always bigger issues, but you know what I mean? When we're not dealing with them issues, when we're not protesting, when we're not trying to figure out how we're going to put food on the table, it's good to have basketball. And it's good to see, you know, people that look like us on the screen doing what they do. And there's plenty of messages on everybody's jerseys. So, you know, it's not leaving anybody's, you know, psyche anytime soon. And, you know, it's great basketball being played, man. So, you know, whoever wins, it's all good, man, because at least we got a little bit of sports to end the summer off.
Absolutely. I mean, the NBA, the WNBA have done a great job making sure that the players have been safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I tell you what, my salute, and I don't know if how familiar you are, but Maya Moore to me is right up there with Colin Kaepernick and what she did and what she's continuing to accomplish.
I know exactly who you're talking about, man. Shout out to that sister as well. And you know, I have great admiration for people that sacrifice and sacrifice so much, you know what I mean, just to not only prove a point, but, you know, again, push the needle a little bit and do our part in this marathon, man.
Absolutely, man. Well, you know what? I appreciate you, Edie, for what you've done, what you contribute not only to hip hop, but to society itself, because you all have definitely pushed the needle forward. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you've done, what you've accomplished, man. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here on westcoaststyles.com. Let everybody know they can continue to keep up with you and follow you on all your endeavors, man.
Yeah, man, I'm on social media, Edie Don O4L at it on Instagram, Edie Don everywhere else. And, you know, appreciate y'all for sharing your platform.
Hey, well, thank you so much. It's definitely our pleasure, and hopefully we can get a chance to talk to you again sometime soon.
Oh, yeah, before I get out there, man, I dropped
Yes,
a project back in May called OG2, Classes in Session, man, with features from everybody from Be Legit, Burner, Jay Worthy, my brother Young Noble was on there. So y'all go stream that as much as possible. The Avant Mind State video is on line right now on YouTube. Go check that out. Appreciate the support, man.
Oh, absolutely, man. By the way, I caught you from afar, but I wasn't gonna run up on you, man, because I know you thought I probably was crazy or something. But I saw you at the Percy party, man. But you was talking to somebody. I was gonna introduce myself.
Oh, that's what's up. No doubt, I had a good time that night.
Yeah, that was a good night, wasn't it?
yeah. Man. Anytime you see me, man, you can holler at me, man. It's always love.
Absolutely, man. One love. Thank you so much, man. The one and only Edie Don. Thank you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Stay up.